Hi, thank you so much for joining us on this second episode of our podcast. That's Mind Your Mind. My name is Ethel. You can also call me my psychologist, GH. So on today's episode, we're talking about dads. We're talking about fathers, generally are men, and their mental well-being. The reason is the month of June is absolutely dedicated to our men. And I think it's important or prudent to actually have conversations regarding their well-being because it's their month. I already have my guest seated. His name is Mr. Emmanuel Nkansah. He is an industrial and organizational psychologist. So stick and stay. Welcome back. So as I mentioned earlier, my special guest is already seated, and he is in the person of Mr. Emmanuel Nkansah. He is an industrial and organizational psychologist. And we are talking about supporting dads with mental illness. Hi.
Hi, Ethel.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on your show.
All right. So we're talking about, mental illness. And I think one thing I have observed is this. So anytime we talk about mental health, people liken that to illness. Okay. So can we probably differentiate between what mental health is and then also mental illness?
Okay. So when we talk about mental illness, it is a wide range of conditions that affect our thinking, our mood, and then our behavior in general.
Yeah.
But mental health has got everything to do with our state of mind.
Yeah.
And that also affects everything about us. So mental illnesses has to do with the conditions. And then mental health is actually the state of our mind.
Yeah.
So that's how I describe both mental health, or differentiate between mental health and then mental illness.
Right. So what are some common mental health challenges that are experienced by fathers or dads?
Okay. So before I go into that, I want to emphasize that there isn't a clear difference, or there isn't specific mental health challenges that men experience that is so different from what women experience, or what women experience that's so different from what men experience.
Okay.
We need to clear that misconception, because people think that what women experience is different from what men experience, but basically it's the same thing. However, there are some things that we've overlooked, we've not really paid attention to. So let's say postpartum depression, for instance. Men also experience that as well. So when the woman is carrying the baby, the man has to make some adjustments. Probably the frequency within which they used to engage in sexual activities it's reduced. The mood of the wife due to pregnancy also, there's some mood changes as well. Yeah. So all of these issues, or all of these conditions tend to also affect the man. And then the man also experiences postpartum depression, or depression as a result of the pregnancy as well. So in essence, both the man and woman are carrying the baby, but often we tend to pay attention to the woman. And even in our society, we realize that when the woman is pregnant, they get all the kind of help, but the man, it's likely the only words of encouragement they'll get is congratulations. And in that kind of setting or culture, they'll tell you, why are they? That's all. You wouldn't get any kind of extra support in terms of how you are doing or coping with the adjustment process. Then we could also talk of PTSD, that's post-traumatic stress syndrome, or stress disorder. Yeah. So for men who have encountered some form of trauma, probably an army officer or army general who has been to war and has returned, they tend to get what we call flashbacks. Okay. And then those who have witnessed some kind of natural disasters also. So these are some of the mental illnesses or conditions that men face. They could also as well experience anxiety disorders. So whatever that the women face, men are equally are likely to also experience the same thing. Yeah.
Then maybe we can talk about some other common mental illnesses that are general, because I think now there's no clear distinction between whether this is solely for men or for women. So we have anxiety, we have depression, which is what you've mentioned. We've also talked about PTSD.
Yes.
Is another common one. Are there any other ones as well? I mean, common mental health challenges that the man could experience?
The other one could be of a genetic disposition. So talk of bipolar.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's also something that a man could experience as well. We talk of schizophrenia. Yeah. So where they will be hallucinating, seeing things, hearing things. So it's also peculiar to men as well.
Okay. All right. So we talked about societal expectations and stereotypes. That was in the previous episode. And I want to find out from you. I mean, what is making it difficult for the man to reach out for help? What do you think for you is making it difficult? Because let's even use what you talked about, which has to do with a man who's expecting, because a woman is pregnant. All we say is, well done.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think are some of the expectations we have as a society when it comes to men and their mental health?
So the society expects men to be strong, men to be self-sufficient, men to be very brave, society expects men to be the providers.
Right.
So looking at all of this, it makes it difficult for a man to say, my mental health is being impacted, so I need to go and see a therapist.
Yeah.
They think they can fix it themselves. Society expects a man to fix something that is broken. If something is broken in the house, the man is the one who is called upon to come and have a look at it. So they tend to think about it this way, that if my mental health is, as I said, has been impacted, I need to fix it myself. Probably let me read some few books. But sometimes the books may be of help, but you also need to talk to somebody, talk to a professional to help address the situation. So basically it's how our society is structured. So you look at our proverbs, and then it gives you an idea of the expectation of the man.
Yeah.
So there are a number of proverbs that talks about the man in relation to the woman, or how the man is supposed to be.
Yeah. We're talking about Father's Day, and I see a change in what's happening now. The language, the celebrations, and all that. But when you also hear from other people, they're really hurt. You have children who are now adults that are so hurt by what fathers did or did not do. We've talked about societal expectations and the stereotyping. Now, how can fathers change the narrative? Because there really are some deadbeat fathers out there. How do we change it? What can we do?
Okay, so let me take it from my grandfather's days to my father's days to my days. So I realized that now fathers are more involved in the upbringing of their children. They are no longer the breadwinners, just the breadwinners, but then they're also involved in the nurturing of the children. So probably it has come with age, or it has come with years, or with development. As the years have gone by, we've seen progress made in the involvement of fathers in the upbringing of their children, or in the activities of their children. And then I also think model fathers are being celebrated now. So some people they celebrate their fathers. They make a lot of noise about the good things of their fathers are doing, which serves as a good model for other fathers to emulate. So I think these are some of the things which we could do, which we are doing, and which we could do to help bring more fathers on board to be involved in the activities of their children, or to be more present in the lives of their children, and not just the mothers. So before we go on, I think we should, once we do that, it will get to a point that the fathers would also have a song composed for us, like the sweet mother. Sweet father.
Okay, so that's a good one. But you know something? I also think that there are men out there who just don't care. I mean, you're a man. And so if I mean, you can tell me whether I'm thinking wrong or not, but do you think it's easier for people to just fall into this whole stereotyping and just go with it because it's easier than all of this trying to be present? What is all this? You know, it's like they're trying to be mushy. Men are not. Men are supposed to be hard and tough and all of that. And for example, I mean, recently I see fathers actually coming into therapy with their children. What are the mothers? Although we still have a lot more mothers in terms of the ratios. I mean, when you compare, there's definitely a difference. But you can actually tell that things are changing, albeit slowly. Now, do you think some men, I mean, might be listening, be like, what are people talking about? What are we trying to say? It's like we're trying to change something which shouldn't change. What are your thoughts regarding that, though?
I think it's worth causing the change. It's worth leading the change, and it can be changed. Men shouldn't stick to the stereotypes that they are associated with.
Okay.
But rather break forth out of that to become a more present father, a more involved father.
Right.
It's so easy, as you mentioned, to fall into the stereotype. After all, that's what society expects me to do. But is that helpful to the children? Is that helpful to you yourself as a man? Because ultimately, men that have good relationship or men that are present in the lives of their children look more fulfilled than those that are absent or those that are more involved in their work than in their family activities. At least COVID taught us something that at the end of the day is the home that we come to. So there's the need for us to step or break out of that stereotype and then be more involved in the activities of our children. Be the father. Not like
just not be hard, not just
but be the model,
No, I like something you said. I want us to go into that a little bit about the benefits or the advantages of having a father present in the life of a child. What does that do for the child?
As I said, so first, that serves as a good role model for the child. Right. So it means the next generation would also have a good father, because he saw his father lead the way.
Yeah.
Not like a man who threw fists.
Yeah.
So then that's serving as a good role model for the next generation.
Okay.
And then communication also is improved. And then let's say socioeconomic, it also helps with the socioeconomic development of the children in terms of education, in terms of even health seeking behaviors. It's improved in children who has that kind of relationship, or fathers who have that kind of relationship with their children, that kind of cordial relationship with their children.
Okay.
And then let's see, the other extreme might be fathers who are hostile to their children. And then so we can talk of violence at home.
Yeah.
So that's the other extreme aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we all want to be with a father who is hostile to the children or who subject the children to abuse. Rather, the one who sort of encourages the children, pulls them along, who is present in their lives.
Yeah. Right. So let's say we have a father who's struggling at this time. He has a mental illness. It's been diagnosed. Let's say depression or anxiety. Now, what would you advise him to do? Should he even disclose it at all? Let's say to his partner and then also to his children. And if yes, I mean, how does he go about it? I mean, and how can the family also support? That is, if it's something that should be, considered.
Okay, so I would say he should disclose it to the family. The family is a source of support to him. So once he discloses it to the family, they would be able to come around, give him all the support and validation he needs. So, and then also the understanding, because they understand his situation. The man himself gets to know that there are people around who understand what I'm going through. So that in itself is a step towards recovery. Rather than hiding and then making matters worse. So once you disclose it, it helps you. It's as we say, a problem solved, a problem shared is half solved. So exactly. So once you share it with your family, wife and children, they're able to come around and then support you through it. As I mentioned, through words of affirmation, encouraging you. Probably they could even share some strategies they read somewhere, which they think could help you. If perhaps you are being given medication, they can assist or remind you that it's time for you to take your medication. So it's good to have them on board. It's good to involve them in your mental health.
What you just said just drew my mind to something. So I've had situations where you have men come in for whatever challenges they have, and they don't want to disclose to family because they'll tell you that it would break them. It will not break them as the client, but it will break family because everybody or the family sees him as their God. And he's strong. Nothing like that should be able to happen to him. So there's that additional burden of managing it by himself or coping by himself. If he's even coming to see a professional, probably to the clinic, he's not telling anybody. So he does this, and then when he's done, he's done. So it's all like in his mind. He's finding ways to deal with it. And he's only able to speak the truth or tell things as they are only to the professional, but can't when he goes home. And just as you're saying, I think that it definitely gets to impact him more because the support is really important. That is, getting that support from family or from loved ones is really important. Right. But what about maybe in the case of an employee at the workplace, a father who's going through some mental health challenge? Because they do. There's so much stress in certain spaces. I know that there's stress everywhere, but I think one of the places I've identified is very stressful space is the banking world. There's so much that's going on over there, and it's like all the time there's something. Now, in such spaces, what would you advise? You and I own. What would you advise in that space for men, for fathers in there? I think that in some places, aside the EAP support or service that is provided, they have certain safe spaces for women. But I haven't seen that for men. What's your advice or what's your take on that?
So, as you mentioned about the EAP, I think it has to be there, and then also safe spaces created for men as well. I think safe spaces have not been created for men yet because we think men are strong, men are able to get things under their control. So safe spaces need to be created for men as well. If I had my own way, I would say the workplace should be made more flexible in terms of working hours. To allow for people to book for appointments with their therapist. Ethel, sometimes getting permission to go and visit a therapist is very difficult. They might tell you you have to wait till your leave days, then you do all such visits. Because that's very unfortunate. That's very unfortunate.
Now, I mean, you saying that in those same spaces where they're saying that you should probably, wait until your leave days before you actually get to. Now, the other even concern is saying, I'm going to see a mental health. I'm sure by the time you return, everybody will know that you've been somewhere.
Exactly.
And maybe they'll be wondering, is he even safe or are we safe for him to be here?
Exactly.
In that. So, well, to that employer who's listening, what again, or what can be done, or what do you think they should be doing? How do they even go about this in a rather confidential way so that the man feels protected? And he can be free to say, I want to probably go and see this professional. I want to go and see my therapist or my psychologist because, I'm going through these challenges.
It has to be policies. Once, I think it's a challenge because they are not the appropriate workplace policies.
Yeah.
The appropriate workplace policies are not present. You see, I talk about the appropriate workplace policies in relation to mental health.
Yeah.
So once those policies are not there, the employer themselves downplay mental health issues.
Okay.
They think it's nothing. You are not manning up enough to handle the situation.
Tough. Yeah.
So myself, I went for an interview. They were asking me about my previous job, why I left, and then I told them my mental health.
Well, that's it.
And that was it. So you see,
wow.
Yeah.
Did they find that a good enough excuse?
No.
Okay.
They thought if I couldn't handle my mental health, then means
you can't.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really unfortunate.
Very, very.
Yeah.
I think we need to the employers themselves have to appreciate mental health issues. Once they get that, come to appreciate the weight of mental health issues, they themselves would prioritize mental health of their employees.
Yeah.
And so they could schedule, let's say, schedule mental health visitations. So just like the leave days, it could be there that perhaps every quarterly, you need to go and see a mental health professional.
Or psych well-being or psych check.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So go and see that person. And we'll make sure that you go and see the mental health professional.
Yeah. Now, then maybe we'll look at friends and their role in all of this, because I think one of the other things I've also noticed, I don't know whether it's more of a stereotyping, but there's this talk that there are certain conversations that is for men only. So this one, it's not for women. And because of that, you'd find men opening up or disclosing some particular conversations only with their friends. Now, because they are all in that same sect, it makes it very difficult for, their friends, maybe to give the right kind of advice. So for other fathers, other men, other dads listening who are going through so many challenges, and maybe they want to disclose to, what would be your advice to those men or to friends, and what role do you think we can play in the life of a friend or colleague who's actually having some mental illness or mental health challenge?
So friends could sort of provide that peer support to men who are going through mental health challenges. They should, in a brotherly way, or boys' way, accept the person, then encourage the person to stick to their mental health regimen, whatever that they've started. Or if the person has not yet gone to see a professional, they should encourage the person to go and see a professional. So the friends could come in as a peer support group to help the person navigate their challenges, their mental health challenges.
And then probably also liaise with family, and work together as one unit, just to provide that support.
Exactly.
Maybe be there for a friend. Okay, right. So I would want us to look at some common signs or symptoms, because there might be people there who don't even know that they actually have depression or anxiety or some other condition, which is a mental health related challenge. So what are some of the very common symptoms you would find in anybody, including men, that should prompt them to go visit a professional or speak with one?
Okay, so if they find out that their sleeping pattern is changing or it has changed consistently, they realize a change in their sleeping pattern,
Yeah.
then they need to, it's one of the signs. And also, they become very irritable, very restless.
Yeah.
Then you probably change in their sex drive or their eating habits have also changed.
Yeah.
Then it should prompt them that they need to go and see professional about their situation. Some could also go into substance misuse.
Yeah.
So they've realized now they are drinking more than they used to drink. They need to go and see a therapist. So these are some of the common signs of mental illness.
Right. But then, you know, most of the time we don't think about that as a first place to go. You would find maybe the individual walking in to see a medical professional. So they go and see their GP or doctor and would have some common, you know, some would share their experiences. Now, sometimes what I've also realized is that when it comes to making the referrals, definitely we should also be looking at or considering the health professionals as well and understanding the collaborations that need to happen. Because you'd have some people running series of tests, nothing is picked up, nothing significant. Everything medically checks out. But the individual still comes with all sorts of concerns, like I was saying, they're sleeping too much, sleeping too little, not eating, or eating too much. Probably or doing things or not doing things at all. Maybe stopped engaging the things they used to enjoy before, and all that. The medical side. What has been your observation? I know it's a very dicey space, but I want us to go in there because that's a personal observation I've also made, and your thoughts regarding all of that. How then, so we can make the right, you know, we can actually help people, because it's all about helping. It's all about making sure that we actually get them to also get the right help and all that. So how can they, the other healthcare professionals, I mean, what are some of the things you think that they should be doing, and how can they help, you know, men, individuals get the right help as well?
So at the beginning of this conversation, I mentioned postpartum depression in men. So men would follow their wives to antenatal clinic, or is it postnatal clinic?
Antenatal.
Okay, okay, prenatal.
So and then we have the so we have the ones during and then the post. Yeah. So that's after. Yeah.
And you realize most of the attention is on the woman.
Yes.
You know, but I feel within that space, mental health practitioners could also be incorporated there as well, so that they address the needs of men. We have to fine-tune our instruments and our assessment instruments to catch, let's say, early symptoms of depression in men. So as they come, history taking, we need to as well take their history.
Right.
Whether they've had depression before. If they've had depression before, then we should sort of know that if it's not well managed, we are likely to of a relapse of it. So that space alone, we need to capitalize on it and then make it more inclusive of the men, so that the men don't just come to learn about the adjustment going on in the lives of the women, but also in their own lives as well. And I don't know whether you've encountered this. Some men say that the therapist room looks more feminine. So it looks like it's not a place for men.
It's not welcoming for them. That's an interesting one, eh? Never thought about it. I think that's a really good point. Okay.
So probably we could make the room more gender inclusive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you talked about some signs, very common signs, you know, of a person that is, or a man that might be struggling with their mental health, and the need for inclusion when it comes to even the space. The other bit, which I want to ask, would have to do with, you know, for parents or for the man who is a parent, what are some of the simple things you can do to deal with their or to help improve their mental well-being? Because parenting is tough. It's not easy. It's a difficult call. And if you're not really up to it, you might struggle. What would be your advice to that parent? Maybe there's a young parent that is listening. He's probably got children as young as 2 or 3. And then we'll look at the one who's dealing with teenagers. Because that as well, I mean, is a trying time for a lot of parents. Throughout that phase, what can men do to improve their mental well-being whilst parenting?
So men could form support groups.
Okay.
That's with other fathers. Ideally, their fathers could have come in to help them. But then among themselves, among their peers, they could have formed that support group where they discuss things pertaining to fatherhood and how they could make that journey more enjoyable for themselves. So, and then they could also engage in other self-care activities. So going for jogging, eating well, getting enough sleep, engaging in other creative outlets. So if they enjoy gardening, they do that. If it's painting, they do that. They could organize a sip and paint. That also sounds very feminine.
Yeah, that's true. I think we kind of have taken over into this. But of course, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I think that it's not necessarily for women, but maybe we've kind of taken over that. But it doesn't mean they can't also do that just for men. Just having their own sip and paint and paint something interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So all of that could help improve their mental well-being.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe the final bit. I know that when it comes to men and their partners as well, there are certain things that we have talked about, which is that we have certain expectations. But at this time as well, I think it's important for men to understand that maybe they're human first before being men. And so it's okay to get help. It's okay to admit that maybe I'm struggling at this time, or probably I'm finding it difficult, to deal with, particular experiences at this time. Any final words for the man or the father that is listening, who's going through a rough patch in his life at this time, probably with his children, maybe financially, and so he's not there. Let's say for the man who is not necessarily with his partner, they might have separated or probably even divorced, but they have to co-parent. What is your advice to all of them? Because it comes with all sorts of things. You can have women that are being very difficult, probably finding ways to poison the mind of the child against the father. And the father feels he's losing a grip of his own child. And maybe in terms of visitation rights, he's having them over probably on very short, at short periods, more than the woman. And so it seems as if the woman seems to have an upper hand. What would you tell that man who seems to be crumbling, in the face of all of these difficulties?
You should seek help. I think that's the most important thing. Don't suffer in silence. Gather all the boldness within you. Man is supposed to be brave. So let that braveness lead you to the therapist. Find somebody you can talk to. And in this case, I would advise that it should be a mental health professional. They are more equipped to help you address the situation in which they find themselves in. Then if there are other men who are co-parenting as well, they could form that support group, learn from each other, provide that encouragement and support to each other, and then make the best out of the little times they get to spend with the children.
Okay, right. So on this episode, I mean, you've heard it all. We have talked about men and their mental, well-being. You've heard from my special guest, that is Mr. Emmanuel Nkansah. We have talked about how you as a man can manage, in the face of all the difficulties, because I know it's tough. It's not been easy, and trying to find a fine balance, parenting and being the best father that you can be. Maybe you didn't even get a good role model to show you the way, but that shouldn't also be an excuse, because we constantly learn. We don't have to necessarily learn from even our parents. We can learn from other people who actually have done something, and some people have actually paved the way for others, and we can learn from, we can pick from those people. So I think from all of the conversation we've had today, one of the things that stand out is there's help available, and if you're not sure where to go to or who to even talk to, I mean, one of the things you have to remember is that speak with a professional. So if you're not sure, you can actually get in touch. The numbers are down below. Get in touch. We can actually help point you in the right direction, and to whichever specialist or therapist or psychologist will be available depending on your location as well. So do that, and remember that there's hope, and so don't give up. If you're going through depression, anxiety, some kind of stress, you don't think that there's a way out. There always is a way. So don't give up. And on that note, we say Happy Father's Day to everybody, every man that is listening, every father that is out there. I know that it's tough, but don't give up. You're doing a great job. So if nobody's singing your praise, at least I'm doing that today. So keep on with it. Don't stop. And wishing everybody the very best. So God bless.